All right, we are rolling. First off, thank you so much for everyone who's greeted me on my birthday, and my joint celebration with April, who just released her song "Never Let Me Go." Do check it out on Spotify. "Never Let Me Go," April Soltura. All right, we had an amazing birthday celebration, and right now it's been a long day. Did a couple of things for work, and I am just, I have some thoughts that I just want to put out in the world. And this is also going to answer some of the questions that I keep getting about what I do as a voice actor. And I just particularly want to talk about freelancing as a whole and why I do this. So I've been a freelancer for the past 13 years. 13 years, that is a lot of time. And as a freelancer, one of the most common questions that I get, or one of these concepts that people have about what we do is, hey, isn't that unstable and unsafe? Aren't you worried about not having a steady paycheck month to month and things like that? That is absolutely true. It is a true concern. But the mindset that freelancers have is very different. So having a steady paycheck, and by the way, quick disclaimer, this is not a dig at 9 to 5s. I know people who have had amazing success stories with having 9 to 5s. They spent their whole lives in that kind of setup, and they're really reaping the rewards of, corporate life, or maybe life in the academe, or, just getting a steady paycheck every month and reaping the rewards for years of hard work. So for these people, works for them. I'm not saying that you should be a freelancer, but I'm just sharing why I chose to be a freelancer. So I chose to be a freelancer because of my values, things that I value. One of the most amazing things about being a freelancer isn't the stability itself. We'll get to the stability part. It's the flexibility. The flexibility of choosing who to work with, when to work, where to work, how to work, and why you work, and what you are working on. Yes, all of that. You get to choose all of that. You get to affect all of those things, those 6 W's and H's and the H, how. You get to affect all of that somehow. Not 100%. Of course, you can't completely say, oh, I'm going to choose who to work with, and that person is the perfect person. I only want to work with the perfect person ever, like clients who are never going to lowball me. That's not true. But you still have the power of choice. You can still choose to filter the clients that you are going to work with. When you actively market yourself as a freelancer, and once you start to develop a solid business, you get to choose, hey, okay, these are the terms that I want. I want to deliver my files within 3 days. Sometimes you get to choose your rate. You get to negotiate, and you get paid the rate that you want. So how much you're paid is also affected by that. Now, again, is the pay perfect? Can I say that, for a voice acting project, I want to be paid $50,000? Not necessarily. Okay, of course not. I can't say that I'm gonna do a voiceover for a school project and get paid $50,000. It doesn't work that way. But let's say that I am aiming for $50,000 as my target income for a voiceover project. Then what do? I look for niches that will pay me that. Okay, so I'm not going to look for voiceover projects doing indie projects for someone's college thesis. I'm going to look for, how to book the next Super Bowl voiceover. Or, if we're talking about freelancing in general, you would look for a market that is going to have, that kind of buying power. A large industry like, say, real estate is very, very popular. That can, to some extent, be a form of freelancing. You can call it consulting, right? or self-employment, but it is, in a sense, still kind of freelancing. So it really depends on the kind of market that you choose. So that's the how much you're going to get paid, where you're going to work. Okay, even my industry as a voice actor, there are some kind of standards in my industry. You can, we were expected to work only in the city for some time. Before the internet era, voice acting was primarily a geographic industry, and it still is. A lot of the amazing prime work that you get to do as a voice actor is usually done in the city. But at the same time, if you set yourself up, like, why do people work in the city? It's because a whole lot of the infrastructure, the studios, the networks, they're all there. But if you bring the studios to where you are, your home, set up a home studio, you get to work with clients all over the world. And by God's grace, I've worked with over clients across 78 countries from the studio, which is really blows my mind every time I think about that. So yeah, there's that kind of flexibility. And in terms of deadlines, you get to negotiate with clients as well and say, hey, the client is probably going to say, can you do this within an hour or so? And, I could say, now, honestly, I think this is going to take 3 days. Okay, I'm not saying the voiceover is going to take 3 days, but I can say, I'm actually away right now. I'd love to do this for you. I could record now with my portable microphone. Just one of these or something, with a portable microphone, or I can say I can do that for you when I get back to my home studio in the next 3 days, right? So of course it's not all about, we're not doing freelancing with a completely me, everything I want to happen is going to happen mindset. But at the same time, yeah, you have a little bit of that. You set your boundaries, you have your values, you have your standards. But at the same time, you're also doing this from a service mindset. You're thinking, okay, how can I help my client? Right? Now, I just want to go back to the stability point. Stability. People think of stability as getting paid a fixed amount month to month, or maybe every other week, or maybe a growing amount in terms of promotions and steady paychecks, things like that. There are ways to create stability as freelancers, all right? And that simply starts with planting seeds. What does that mean? When you're a new freelancer, your career might look like, in a week, you might have one project per month. When you are starting out, one project, just one project. But if you position yourself right, that is, you present yourself as a professional with the right equipment, with the right skills, with the right training, which, you can develop sooner rather than later. It doesn't take 4 years to develop freelancing skills. You can actually set yourself up for success sooner. And you can get paid really good rates. When I got, just to put it out there, using the voiceover industry as a frame of reference, when I was new to this, I was presented like this voiceover project for an AVP. Okay, I remember I was a new voice actor, 2015. Okay, and I only had a cheap USB microphone. Company calls me, hello, Sir Dave. I'm calling because I saw your listing on this website, and I was wondering how much would it cost for 4 AVPs done by tonight? And I was like, well, what's your budget? Okay, I started with that. I didn't know the standard rates in my industry, so first I was like, well, what's your budget? And she was like, sir, would 25K be enough? That's in Philippine peso, so that's about $500. Okay, so would $500 be enough, right? And here I wasn't even a college graduate yet. So I was like, yeah, that will do. And she was like, oh, thank God. Yeah. All right, sir. I'll send over the script and hope to hear from you soon. Okay, thanks. Bye. Right. And she was so nervous. And I was just like puffing my chest up like, okay, yeah, that will do. And I was just like outside my house wearing shorts, being very casual about it. And after that, I was like jumping, like, whoa, I'm getting paid $500 for an AVP. And that like just changed my perspective. $500 for 3 hours of work. All right. And I'm not just talking about voice acting, okay? This is not the only industry that gets to charge premium rates. You can do that as a logo designer. You can do this as a graphic designer, as a video editor. Depending on who you are serving and what that's going to be used for, you would be able to charge premium rates. Someone once told me that if you're going to go to a seamstress, you're not going to, you can get a discount if you say, for your wedding dress, if you say that it's going to be used for a ball. Okay, if you say, yeah, I just want to use this for a ball. Okay, so you're going to get a pretty good rate for that. But the moment that you say, this is actually going to be the dress for my wedding, well, then the rates go up, right? So usage is very, very important. And by the way, don't undercut the seamstresses, all right? Don't do that, okay? So usage is a very important factor in business, where and when the output is going to be used, okay? So for instance, again, music, okay? If the music track is just going to be used for a high school project, probably not going to get paid a whole lot for that. But if you say that this music track is going to be used to launch Coca-Cola's next flavor, Coca-Cola Mentos flavor, I have no idea. The moment you do that, all of a sudden your music track, your composition becomes incredibly more expensive, because what you will be paid is tied to the success of Coca-Cola's campaign. Right? So that's the perspective. You can do a little bit of work and get paid a whole lot. So I mentioned that stability, okay, maybe when you're starting, it's one project and you can get paid a good chunk. That is one day out of 365 days in a year, or one day out of 30 days in a month. Now, imagine, and that's not even a whole day. That is like the voiceover project I mentioned, 3 to 4 hours. That is barely half, like 3/8 a full workday, an 8-hour workday, not including the commute, right? That's another great advantage of working at home. You get to skip the commute, right? So imagine if you had like 40 work hours in a week, 160 work hours in a month, and if 3 hours pays you $500, wouldn't you scramble to fill the 160 hours with projects that pay, even projects that pay, say, $100? You multiply that 10 times, you get $1,000 for 10 hours of work. It's a matter of planting seeds, building relationships with clients, building networks, and you're going to be surprised that, in a couple of months and then in years, your week going from like one project a month, your week is going to be packed. Your week is going to be so packed that you will be working 40 hours a week, 50, 60 if you want. I'm not saying you should, but you have that option if you have to. Now, if you are working 60 hours a week, that is a good sign that the demand for you is exceeding your supply, your time, your personal time. So if you are working 60 hours a week, what do? You raise your rates. You raise your rates. All right? Because I have to say now as a freelancer, I am not as busy as I used to be. I used to... Okay, April snuck in for, asking me to eat dinner finally, so I got, 5 minutes for this. So, yeah, if people are, your rates are, your day is packed, your week is packed, you want to be able to You want to raise your rates so that your time is freed up. So I used to be really, really busy. Like, I'm busy now, but back then I was so busy that I couldn't attend weddings, I couldn't attend birthdays, I couldn't attend personal events. I even, there were a lot of things that I should have done with my personal life that I was missing out on because of too much work. So what did I do? I raised my rates, I followed the industry standards more, and now I work fewer hours for more money than I did back then. And so what that looks like is you have a week that you generally have control of. And yeah, I get to choose when to wake up. If I choose to wake up at 6 a.m., I can do that. If I have to wake up when I'm done sleeping, I can do that as well. So these are the things that you can do as freelancers. And before you know it, you are being paid you're being paid premium rates with a packed week. Or if you prefer to just work 4 hours a week, work with just a few key clients, that also counts as full-time. Success looks different for everybody. It's not about filling your week unless that's how it looks for you because you get to produce more. For me, it's not about having, like really, really packed weeks. I don't mind just working 20 hours in a week if that means I get to spend more time doing things that are important to me, such as serving in my church, spending time with my wife, spending time with my family. All these things are very important to me, and I'm only able to do them because freelancing affords me that. So, if you've ever been on the fence about freelancing, those are just some thoughts. Of course, there is a dark side to it. Some people might say, maybe we're romanticizing it too much. There is a give and take. There are pros and cons. And there will be months that are slower than others, but there are things that you can do to accelerate those months. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on freelancing, and I hope this helps. Hope you guys have an amazing day. Take care, and God bless.